The Lamborghini Huracan Gr3 car in Gran Turismo 7 is a nightmare to drive. It oversteers, it understeers, it can do both those things in the same corner. It is an absolute Jekyll and Hyde of a car. By the end of this video, I will have taught you everything you need to know to get fast driving this car in Gran Turismo 7. The Catalunya circuit experience in Gran Turismo 7 is not so much about the circuit experience of Catalunya, it's more the car experience of the Lamborghini Huracan Gr3 car. If you can master the car, then the circuit experience is very, very easy. But how can a car that is so difficult to drive become easy? Well, I'm going to go through and explain exactly why it's difficult to drive, and that will help you understand how you need to drive the car. So I went and bought a car for myself so I could evaluate what the standard setup is on the car and why it drives like such a nightmare. The first thing you can notice with the vehicle is the front to rear weight balance. 42 to the front, 58% to the rear. That is a lot of weight over the rear of the car, and that explains the insane weight transfer you feel when either getting on the brakes or getting off the throttle. As you're turning in, the rear wants to swing out and over rotate. I have a video on my channel explaining how to tune this out of the car, but for this circuit experience, tuning is not enabled, so you have what you've got. But I'm going to go through some driving techniques a little bit later on to make this problem less of an issue. The next feature of the setup of the car, the default setup of the car, is the differential LSD settings, and this explains the way the car feels off power. The braking sensitivity is too low, and on acceleration, the acceleration sensitivity is too high. It's actually really quite high, and the overall initial torque is higher than I would set it to normally. So all these numbers combined means the car is loose when you're turning in and you're off throttle, and when you're getting on throttle, the car feels quite tight and wants to understeer. That explains why the car drives like it does. That's the setup you've got. You cannot change that. I'm going to go through some driving techniques now which allow you to drive around those setup issues. My first tip for this Lamborghini Huracan Gr3 car is to set the brake bias mostly to the front. I ran -4 for all of my laps. I found it's pretty good. But brake bias is available to you, so you move it forwards and backwards depending how you like to drive the car, but -4 is what I'd recommend to start with. That's going to kill a bit of the oversteer when you're on the brakes. Leading on from this, when you release the brakes, don't just come off the brakes instantly. Roll off of the brakes. Every single throttle or brake input with this car, the car is very sensitive to everything you do with throttle and brakes. So when you're coming off the brakes, come off the brakes slowly. Even if you've done all of this, the car will still want to over rotate on corner entry and mid corner. If managed properly, this can actually be a good thing to improve your lap time. You can get a lot of the corner rotation done in the kind of first third of the corner. With the Lamborghini Huracan, it has a really high acceleration sensitivity setting on the diff, so you can actually catch the slide with a little bit of throttle input. Any throttle input is going to really activate that rear diff, activate the locking action, and start to promote some understeer on corner exit. So you can stabilize the slide by just applying a little bit of throttle. With this car, throttle and brake is way more important than steering, and certainly very rare to have to catch a slide with opposite lock. You can just catch the slide by just applying a little bit of throttle to stabilize the car. Another tip for the Lamborghini Huracan is to be very slow with your downshifts. When you're on the brakes going down through the gears into the corner, if you're on manual gears, then don't just bang down through the gearbox. Just be much slower with your downshifts. I also tested this car using the automatic gearbox, and the downshifts using the automatic gearbox are pretty okay. You don't need to worry too much about that. But when using manual gearbox, be very cautious with your downshifts. Don't go bashing down through the gears like you're driving an F1 car. Just be much more steady with your downshifts. A little bit later, this will upset the car a lot less in the braking and deceleration phase of the corner. It may not feel like it, but this Lamborghini Huracan has a load of rear grip on power. If you're spinning out on power, that's because the car has over rotated before you've got on the throttle. If the car is stable, when you get on the throttle, the Lamborghini Huracan has so much rear traction as long as you're not using first gear. Do not use first gear, it's far too low ratio. Second gear is the minimum gear you want to pull, even on the slower hairpin corners. My final tip for this Lamborghini Huracan Gr3 car is when you're going through a long sweeping corner where you want to be on kind of mid throttle, never fully release the throttle. Always have a little bit of throttle trailing on the car, and that will make sure the diff stays in the acceleration zone. It doesn't switch to the braking zone when you come fully off the throttle. As soon as you come off throttle, the diff switches to its deceleration or braking phase, and that's when you start to get the car pitch and want to over rotate. I think that covers most of the driving techniques and tips to allow you to get the most out of this Lamborghini Huracan. I've talked the talk, but can I walk the walk? I'm going to now implement everything we've just discussed, make a conscious effort to really emphasize the tips that I've just shown you, and we'll see what lap time we can get out of this Lamborghini Huracan. Starting the circuit experience lap now. Brake bias set to -4, so 4 to the front. The Ghost is the demonstration Ghost, 0.2 seconds ahead. Now into turn 1, I look for the black box on the left hand side, get on the brakes, down through the gears slowly into third gear and turning in gently, and then getting on the throttle very soon after, just a small amount of throttle just to stabilize the car through this long right hander, always touching a little bit of throttle just to keep the car stable. And you can see we are already close to being ahead of the Ghost. Braking into this corner here, now down all the way to second gear. The car will want to over rotate, getting on the gas just a little bit just to stabilize the car. This next corner approaching, we go a little bit too deep, square off the corner early, and then we get a great exit. Not an ideal line, but we've used the car's rotation to get the corner done early, square off the corner exit. Braking for here is before the curb starts, down to third gear, turning very gently, and again on the throttle just gently to balance the slide of the car. This long fast corner is taken in third gear, throwing the car in gently and using the throttle to balance the car to manage that over rotation. Look for your braking reference point into this, all the way down to second gear for this slow speed corner. Low revs in second gear, don't drop to first gear. On the exit of this corner, you need to get on the gas to manage understeer. Through this section here, dropping down to second gear, watching the car for over rotation on corner entry. Again, always balancing the throttle to make the car stable. Again, down to second gear for this corner, balancing the throttle, keep the car stable. Stay in second gear through this series. Avoid the curb on the left, cut the corner on the right. Avoid corner exit, don't run too wide. Balance the throttle through this corner and run to the line, and hopefully that'll be a gold lap time for you. My lap time is a 1:44.5. Hopefully these tips for how to drive this Lamborghini Huracan will start to help you understand and really find a love for driving this Lamborghini Huracan. It's a very satisfying car to drive once you get the balance between on throttle and off throttle right. It's so satisfying, it sounds amazing, and once you unlock the secrets of this car, then you can really smash this circuit experience. If you have enjoyed this video, don't forget to smash that like button, consider subscribing if you haven't already. YouTube have now just enabled super thanks on my channel, so you can hit the super thanks button in the bar below, which allows you to put a donation and a comment on my video. I'm not entirely sure what I will do with this feature going forwards, but YouTube has enabled this for me, and we'll see what to do, whether I feature these comments in future videos or whether we can do video requests in this way. I really don't know quite yet, but let me know in the comments below. This video has been a little bit different to my other videos. I've tried to spend a lot more time with the edit and make things a lot more interesting and exciting. So let me know in the comments below if this has worked for you. On screen right now will be a link to another one of my videos which you may find interesting. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.